Hello, I'm Anatole, and welcome to my review of Black Mirror Season 5, Episode 2, titled Smithereens, which scored 7.8 on IMDb. It is the highest rated episode from this season, and I believe that that is a fair representation of my feelings. I feel that out of all the episodes this season, this most encapsulated what we think of as a classic Black Mirror episode, and that apart from the ending, it was very successful. I think it just kind of dropped the ball at the very end. Before getting to my comments about the end, though, I do want to say that the staging or the structure of this episode is very unusual in that it's a series of scenes of duos and triads of characters in different rooms, only interacting with each other through mass communication, through instant messaging, phone calls, text messages, but not reaching each other through personal connection. They are connecting with other people in the room, but I really believe that Charlie Brooker, if he could have somehow conveyed the ideas of the characters in each different locale without having to have them talk to another person, which you have to do in television. I think if he could have gotten away with that, with only one person in each setting, he would have. If this were a prose story, he would have resorted to just their thoughts, which is what prose is good for. But because it's television and you need them to speak, I think there are other characters in each room. But many of those characters do not need someone to interact with them. For example, the character, the COO, pretty much chewed up all the scenery, and the other people in that room didn't add a lot. You could have removed them, and she would have just been fine moving the plot forward without any other characters. And then to discuss the message, that's where another point, now that I think about it, where I think the episode fell apart because I didn't quite get the message. There was something there about social media making us so oblivious to others that it is a danger to us. So when the character of Jason, I believe, Jaden is kidnapped by the character of Chris, it happens because he's so hung up on his phone, he doesn't realize that car's gone off the beaten path and his life is in jeopardy. And then the character of Chris drives into another car or fails to see a drunk driver is coming towards his car. That's never really explained specifically. But the car accident happens in part because he is oblivious to the road and he's hung up in checking his Smithereens account. So I think that's kind of where I was getting at, but how the people who are in charge of social media are supposed to be culpable for this is only hinted at. They get at like dopamine levels and dopamine targets, but I don't think that point it's never really hit home. And instead, the procedural of this person in the car, the kidnapped victim, threatening to kill him, that overtakes the message of the show, the deeper message of the show. And then the point I alluded to before, earlier, about my attitude towards the ending, that I think that the show falls there. It was a commenter on the program Mild Fuzz that this episode, unlike others, is not served well by the ambiguity. And I would argue that it's not given enough ambiguity, because before the final credits roll and we're given that epilogue that each episode, or many of the episodes has, we are left with doubt whether either of the people in the car are going to survive the gunshot. But then after the epilogue rolls, the reaction we see from everyone tells us something bad happened. So rather than leave us at that point where someone could have lived, and the overarching point of the episode was not whether someone lived, but how much their peril had been created by social media, and the way that social media interacted with the police and civic organizations and social connections that created the situation where you had someone fly off the hinge and kidnap another person. And because the other person can see the humanity in this person, that it's not a bad person who's kidnapped him. And by that I mean Jaden can see that humanity. He gets into a life and death struggle with him. That should have been the main point. But instead, because we see the reaction of all the other people and that it's a bad reaction, we know someone has died. They would not react that way if both of the people had lived. So I think that resolving that was the mistake. Just leaving us in doubt as to whether someone died or if both people lived, that should have been the ending. And so I think those 2 points, now that I think about the way the theme was not really hit home enough, it could have been detailed a little more. The theme about how social media networks are culpable for the negative results that occur in the world because they're trying to engineer people to become addicted to these things. That needed to be driven home a little more, and then the ending needed a truly ambiguous ending. So those are my thoughts on the episode. I think it is the strongest one of the season, and apart from those 2 areas, I think that it's a fine episode. That's all for now. Take care and be well. Goodbye.